Hi, Mom. What are you doing today?
Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence, an ideal rental setting for retirees to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We have bright 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, and wellness and entertainment programs. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Mom, call me when you're not so busy.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel.
I'm Rebecca Drake, and I'll introduce you to a local couple whose love for God and neighbor inspired their volunteer work at Kate's Kitchen in Holyoke.
We'll introduce you to a new program at St. Catherine's, the CATECHESIS of the Good Shepherd. I'm Carolee McGrath. I'll have the story coming up.
These stories and more are just ahead on this edition of Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel today, coming to you from Kate's Kitchen in Holyoke, one of 7 programs run by Providence Ministries for the Needy, which receives funding from the annual Catholic Appeal of the Diocese of Springfield. For 40 years now, Providence Ministries has been a beacon of hope with the mission to feed, shelter, and clothe those in need. Today, Kate's Kitchen serves lunch daily to over 150 people. Loretto House, Broderick House, and McCleary Manor are home to men on their individual recovery journeys. St. Jude's Closet opens its doors to offer clothing and other household items to the community. Margaret's Pantry helps individuals and families with nutritious meals, and the FoodWorks culinary training program helps students to increase their own capacity towards self-sufficiency. With Lent coming up this week, the Springfield Diocese Annual Catholic Appeal invites parishioners to put their faith into action by sharing God's love through acts of charity. Rebecca Drake recently interviewed a Holyoke couple who exemplifies this through their volunteer work here at Kate's Kitchen. Here now is their love story.
After nearly 2 years of marriage, Suzanne Picard and Richard Baer might still be mistaken for newlyweds. The couple, who are regular volunteers at Kate's Kitchen in Holyoke, say their love for each other is built upon the love of God and neighbor inspired by their Catholic faith.
It's very important to us, and when it's really about giving and love, and that's what the foundation of our marriage is the love that we share not only with one another but with our families and our community.
When I think of the greatest of the commandments, to love God and love your neighbor, well, how does one do that? Well, I think it's important to do it, to put it into action.
While Suzanne is a Holyoke native and cradle Catholic, Richard was raised in the Episcopal Church and hails from Chicago. Both were hospice nurses and living in Denver when they met. Richard and his wife, Betsy, later converted to Catholicism shortly before her death in 2012.
We started going to daily Mass during the last year of my wife's life, and it really just fed both of our souls.
In the years after his wife's death, Richard reconnected with Suzanne, who had moved back to Holyoke after raising her 2 sons. And when the friendship grew into love, they were married and committed to serving their community together. While attending a fundraiser for Providence Ministries, Richard and Suzanne met Executive Director Shannon Rudder, who suggested they volunteer at Kate's Kitchen, a meals program that receives grants from the annual Catholic Appeal.
This community of Holyoke meant a lot to me. And so that seemed the way to go, to give back to this community and to the folks, that are underserved in this community. And there's certainly a tremendous food insecurity here.
But through their volunteer work at Kate's Kitchen, they are doing much more than filling plates with food.
And Kate's Kitchen is our cornerstone program here in South Holyoke. We are dedicated to welcoming folks into our community kitchen from 12 to 2 each and every day, no questions asked, as our guest. And so folks come in and they are served meals. So it's what makes it very cool at Kate's to me is the dignity and the compassion that is shown.
During their time at Kate's, Suzanne and Richard also have become part of a close community of staff, volunteers, and Providence Ministry clients.
So having gotten to know the community that we serve, the fellows from upstairs, the other volunteers, the people who work in Food Works, and the chefs, you know, it's a really tight community. And the folks, our guests, our clients that come are so grateful. You know, they'll just pop their head in the kitchen and say, thanks for the great meal. You know, it was wonderful. And do you have seconds?
Richard, who is fluent in Spanish, says he especially values the friendships he has formed with Kate's Kitchen guests and staff.
I will sometimes be doing dishes while Suzanne is like the cafeteria lady, so she's always, but I might be working the dishwasher, but often I have the opportunity to go out and either help serve the guests or just visit with them, and there are a number of them that we've gotten close with.
During their interview with Catholic Communications, the couple said they can assure donors to the annual Catholic Appeal that they are making a difference.
I don't think Providence Ministries would exist without the donations and the contributions from the community, from our Catholic community. This is a great appeal and a great opportunity to help those. You know, if you can't volunteer there, there's always something you can do.
And those who donate monetary gifts can be sure that those dollars are being well spent.
The money goes a long way. It's really making a difference. I mean, we're serving 100 to 150 meals every day, 366 days this year. Yeah, so it's money well spent, and it's not wasted. It's well worth the contributions.
For Richard and Suzanne, the experience of volunteering isn't only about what they give, but what they receive.
We're getting to hang out with folks who appreciate us, and we appreciate them, and it's about kindness. It fills us as much as we hope that we fill them.
Yeah, it's just a very warm environment, a loving environment, and feeding the hungry and loving them sincerely, showing them a kindness and our joy.
God's gift of love, given and received with grateful hearts by Kate's Kitchen volunteers Richard Bear and Suzanne Picard. For Real to Real, I'm Rebecca Drake.
Suzanne and Richard certainly are an inspiration for all people of faith, and we thank them for sharing their story with us. More about the programs and volunteer opportunities here at Providence Ministries can be found through a link at iobserve.org. And you can read Rebecca's companion article in the current edition of the Catholic Mirror. Joining me now is my colleague and manager of the annual Catholic Appeal, Kathy Harrington. Welcome, Kathy.
Hi, Sharon. Thank you for having me.
Now, Kathy, this year's annual Catholic Appeal coincides with the 150th anniversary of the diocese and is sharing a theme this year. Can you tell us about it?
Well, the theme is Our Faith, Our Future. And what it represents for the annual Catholic Appeal is when people contribute to the annual Catholic Appeal, they are putting their faith into action. That money goes to ministries and agencies that actually are doing the ministries, the things that Jesus Christ has told us to do, to go out and serve and love our neighbors. So there is our faith, and when we make this investment in our neighbors who are in crisis, sometimes it's the only time they come in contact with the Catholic Church. And our contact in a time of need is building the future of our Catholic Church, because if that's the evangelization, that's exactly what we mean by our faith, our future.
And the funded agencies and ministries cover all aspects of life.
They do. From the unborn, there are a number of crisis pregnancy clinics, to the dying. And in between, it may be a family who's in crisis. It could be a family that's lost their home to a fire, And there's help to refurnish their home. There's emergency help with food. There's emergency help with heating through some of our agencies. There's sober living opportunities. It's respecting life at all ages.
So while many of us make individual donations to many of the charities which receive ACA funding, a single donation to the annual Catholic Appeal helps all the ministries and agencies funded, right?
That's true. So you could write a check to one of the individual agencies, but when you're supporting the annual Catholic Appeal through your parish, it helps your parish to meet its target and perhaps get money back at the end of the appeal season. But it also goes into a bigger pot. There are people who give a great amount of money, and then there are people who give a smaller amount of money. All of that gets lumped together and it gets spread across Western Massachusetts. It has more impact when it goes out through the annual Catholic Appeal.
And how can people learn more about how the ACA funds are awarded?
So, well, there is a committee that actually reads all of the grants, and that's how that money actually is awarded to the external agencies. I've included information about that in the brochure that was sent to people's homes. It's also available on our website, www.diospringfield.org, and you'd want to click on the Annual Catholic Appeal link. And in the next letter, there will be a list of all the agencies with a little bit of information about what each one does. You could also call my office and I'd be happy to drop one in the mail to you.
And every gift helps, no matter the amount, isn't that right?
That is so true. Again, there are people who contribute sizable amounts of money, and then there are gifts that truly come from the heart. Not that long ago, I spoke with an older gentleman from Three Rivers who every year tries to give something, and last year it was a $10 donation. And you know, when you're on a fixed income, $10 is a lot of money. It's a personal sacrifice to make that contribution, and it means a lot.
All right, Kathy Harrington, thanks so much for your insight today.
Thank you.
And remember, you can make your donation at diospringfield.org anytime. And Reel to Reel is among the many grateful benefactors of your generosity. Again, we thank you so much for your support. Meanwhile, over at St. Catherine of Siena Parish in Springfield, there is a new program for young children called CATECHESIS of the Good Shepherd. The religious education program meets every Friday morning and uses the Montessori method. Carolee McGrath has more.
Purple and red and green and white remind us of the light.
It was circle time on a recent Friday morning at St. Catherine of Siena Parish in Springfield as these little ones prepared to learn about Jesus. Where are we? Tell me about this room.
This is the atrium.
What are you doing here?
Learn about God.
5-year-old Cordelia Begley is a young participant in the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, a program new to the diocese. Her mom, Elizabeth, is the co-leader, and her little brother, Jerome, is also in the program.
The Catechesis of the Good Shepherd is a program of faith formation that is based on the teachings and research of Maria Montessori. Everyone's heard of Montessori schools probably, but she herself was actually a devout Catholic. And this program was developed back in the 50s by 2 lay women in Rome. And they looked at what Maria Montessori had to say about child development and said, how can we apply these principles to teaching children about God?
The program takes place in a room in the parish center called the atrium. Inside, the children can explore different aspects of the Catholic faith.
A large part of the formation also is for the catechist to make the materials or enlist the help of the parish to make the materials. So everything in here has been made or donated by someone who loves these children. So the catechists have made things, our family members, the people in the parish. So we have our whole entire altar area that my father built. So the altar, the tabernacle, the lectern, the sacristy.
Oh, Lord. Lord, shout for joy. Oh Lord, shout for joy.
Elizabeth and her co-teacher Mary Jo Holwadell have gone through extensive training through the Archdiocese of Hartford. The two went to Catholic schools together, although they're a few years apart. Mary Jo, who is also a talented seamstress, made the chasubles and linens for the program.
I see many ways that they are growing and developing, little things like control of movement and intentionality in their movements, the reverence with which they are approaching things like the altar and the tabernacle, both in the atrium where we have a model altar and a model tabernacle, and also when we bring them into the church, and they understand more when they look at the tabernacle. They know that red candle means that Jesus is in the tabernacle.
This program doesn't just scratch the surface, but teaches the truths of the Catholic faith, and these little kids really get it. They understand the Annunciation, that Jesus is the Good Shepherd. They also understand the real presence.
It might be counterintuitive to present some of these things to young children, but what they found through their research is that the most essential elements of the faith resonate with children of this age and really bring them great joy, and that they have a natural capacity for the enjoyment of God.
Father Jeff Ballou is the pastor of St. Catherine's and Immaculate Conception in Indian Orchard.
It's a proven catechetical method that's worked for decades, and it's hands-on, and it's really great that St. Catherine's is going to be the pilot parish for this, the first in the diocese to do this. And as you can see just by going in there, the kids really enjoy touching the things and looking at the things and exploring. And I think hopefully later on in life they're going to make that connection that they made as children, as teenagers and young adults, and as adults to better catechize their own children.
Megan Belarjan, mom of 8, enrolled little Colette in the program.
So they really learn that Christ is the Good Shepherd and that we are his sheep and that he loves them like so deeply. But you can see that like really radiating through them. They do have the love of Jesus, and they get to, learn about him more, but also love him more through the program. So.
And it's obvious the teaching style is working. What happens in the springtime when we think about Jesus? What typically happens in the spring?
Easter.
And what happens on Easter?
Jesus rises from the dead.
And how does that make you feel?
Happy.
How come? Why does that make you feel happy?
He's back. Yeah, he's back.
He's back. So he won, right? He won the fight. He's back, and he's going to save us?
Yeah.
Oh Lord, shout for joy.
And through their exploring, songs, and play, these little ones have a sophisticated understanding of the cross and just how much Jesus loves us. In Springfield, I'm Carolee McGrath.
Great to see such dedication in sharing the faith with the youngest members of our church. And still to come on Reel to Reel,
a special exhibit featuring Eucharistic miracles will be part of the upcoming Catholic Life Conference next month. This story and more still to come on Reel to Reel.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passionist Brother Terrence Scanlon, your Chalice host, inviting you to take time out of your busy day and join us Sunday morning. This week, we welcome Father Eric Mendez as our Mass Presider and celebrate Catholic Scouting. The Chalice of Salvation, Sunday mornings at 10 on 22 News WWLP, and coming up next on Albany's Fox 23 WXXA.
Hi, Mom. What are you doing today?
Providence Place, owned by the Sisters of Providence, an ideal rental setting for retirees to continue their active, independent lifestyles. We have bright 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, a magnificent chapel with daily mass, restaurant-style dining, and wellness and entertainment programs. Call for a tour, 413-534-9700.
Mom, call me when you're not so busy.
What have you done for your marriage today?
I took the baby while she worked. Today we've actually organized a date night tonight.
I got up with the baby while he slept.
Yeah.
What have I done for my marriage today?
That is a great question.
I have carried my wife's purse.
Boy, I gave a huge hug this morning, like a really big squeeze.
We're going to the museums as a family.
What have you done for your marriage today? Don't forget the small stuff. Need ideas? Go to foryourmarriage.org, a message from the Catholic Church.
Butcher, baker, candlestick maker. I didn't care what they grew up to be, as long as they were happy. To give up marriage and children just seems like too much to walk away from.
He seems to think he's making a real difference in people's lives, and he's so happy. Isn't that what's most important?
I never would have imagined our son as a Catholic priest.
Finally today, the Catholic Life Conference is set to take place at the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield on March 21st and will feature nationally recognized speakers, music, comedy, mass, reconciliation, and much more, including a special Vatican-sanctioned exhibit on Eucharistic miracles. We first brought you the story of this exhibit when it came to St. Elizabeth of Hungary Parish in North Adams last April. Here's Steve Kiltonick now with the story of the inspiration behind the Eucharistic miracles of the world.
On April 6th, the Vatican International Exhibition of the Eucharistic Miracles of the World went on display at St. Elizabeth of Hungary Parish in North Adams. This is the first time it has been seen in Western Massachusetts, having already visited over 3,000 parishes around the globe. It made its way to the city of Steeples through the efforts of parishioner and religious education teacher Debbie Pickering. Some of her confirmation students expressed doubt that Jesus is truly present in the Eucharist, and Pickering wanted to do something to make them believe. After some research, she found out about the exhibition online.
It got me thinking that this would be a very important thing to bring to our parish, and especially for the children in our Faith Formation program, to see examples of these miracles that show that Jesus truly is present in the Eucharist even when we don't see it.
The exhibit includes 153 panels that depict the 152 Eucharistic miracles that have occurred throughout the world in over 20 countries. The panels allow the viewer to virtually visit the places where the miracles have taken place. The exhibition is available free of charge for anyone to download the photographs, historical descriptions, and maps from a DVD. Fortunately for St. Elizabeth's, a Tewksbury Mass couple had already created the posters and stands and were happy to let Pickering borrow the material. They went another step further and drove the posters up to North Adams to set it up in the parish hall gym. The brainchild behind the exhibition was a young boy from Milan, Italy, Carlos Acutis. Acutis was a typical boy in many respects. He loved sports and animals. In another sense, he was very different. Acutis was extremely religious and devoted at a very young age to Jesus and the Eucharist, saying, "The Eucharist is my highway to heaven." A computer whiz kid, at age 11, Acutis began 3 years of research into the Eucharistic miracles of the world. He did all the programming and developed a website for the material with the ultimate goal to teach the faith to people. Carlos's hope was that
People heard about these miracles, that they would truly believe that Jesus was present in the Eucharist, and that would fill our churches, and people would be lining up to receive Jesus in the Eucharist.
To be always close to Jesus, that's my life plan, Acutis remarked. Unfortunately, his life plan on earth would be short, only 15 years. In 2006, Acutis died from leukemia, never seeing his dream come to fruition fully in Catholic parishes around the world. Carlos's mother took up her son's mission, creating the posters and, since his death, adding more miracles as they were recognized by the Church. Lanciano, Italy, was where the first and oldest miracle took place. In 750 AD, a monastic priest expressed doubt that Jesus was present in the Eucharist.
One day when he was celebrating Mass, when he said the words of consecration, he noticed that the bread changed to flesh and the wine had changed to blood. And he repented right there, and the whole congregation also witnessed it. It was kept on display for centuries, just exposed to the elements.
In the 1970s, the samples were extensively examined scientifically.
They discovered that the flesh was true human flesh, specifically human heart tissue. The blood was human blood of the AB blood type, which has been shown to be on the Shroud of Turin. Every time they test them, have the characteristics as if they were drawn fresh from a live human being that day. So they can't explain that either.
In most of the documented miracles, the Eucharist has been turned into real flesh and blood. The miracles on display are categorized by countries. Italy has the most miracles, 29. While Spain and France have also miracles in double figures, while countries like Croatia, Portugal, Colombia, and India have just one. In India, Jesus' face appeared on the Eucharist during adoration. In addition, there are stories of saints who have lived for many years by consuming only the consecrated Eucharist, as well as other saints' miraculous experience with Holy Communion. Animals also recognized Jesus' presence in the Eucharist when humans didn't.
This peasant was using cattle to pull the plow, and they stopped in their tracks, and they refused to move no matter what he did. And then they knelt down on the ground, and the peasant saw that there was a glowing light. And when he went to check out what the light was, he found the pyx with the consecrated host.
In his Sunday homily, Father Dariusz Rudarski spoke about a more recent miracle that took place in Poland, where a dropped host turned into flesh.
The histopathological tissue fragments were found containing fragmented parts of the skeletal muscle, most similar to the heart muscle.
It is a beautiful phenomenon to experience and for us to learn because it deepens our faith.
Father Rudarski said each phenomenon is investigated by a local diocesan committee established by a bishop. Based on the scientific evidence, it is presented to the bishop and the Vatican for review before being declared a miracle. Many of the miracle's churches become Eucharistic sanctuaries or shrines of the Eucharistic miracle once approved by the Church.
At times, people have to be jolted with reality, and I think the Eucharistic miracles emphasize the need, or perhaps it's a beautiful witness that this is a beautiful reality, it's a mystery, and it's still part of who we are and what we are.
Rudarski and Pickering hope people make the effort to stop by the exhibit and learn something about their Catholic faith.
I think God gives us these miracles to increase everyone's faith. I think they're very inspiring, and it gives you a different perspective. When you go to Mass, you're really receiving Jesus in the Eucharist. Even if it does not look like flesh, does not look like blood, it truly is. Even though we can't see it, that's what God tells us, and that's the truth.
For Real to Real, I'm Steve Kiltonic.
And if you would like more information on how you can attend the Catholic Life Conference, head over to our website, iobserve.org. For this week, that's Real to Real. Thanks so much to everyone here at Kate's Kitchen for hosting our visit today, and thank you for joining us. Remember, for more updates anytime, you can find information and news on the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world on our news and information site, iobserve.org. We also are on Facebook, updating daily, while our reporters work on stories for Real to Real, so check us out and friend us at Catholic Communications. And we will see you again next week for another edition of Real to Real, your window on the world around you. See you then.
Real to Real is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.